Hey everyone, good afternoon. Uh, Let me just do a quick check. Awesome. So I'm Devesh, I'm from Meta. It's great to be here. I think we started our association with RAI about 6 months ago or about a year ago. This is the second time we're here. And I think a lot of people ask us why exactly we come for all of these events. And I think the context is that we've really seen retail as an industry really grow on Meta in the last couple of years. And we're out here to basically just walk through parts of which we think are going well and how other retailers can also learn from that whole journey, right? So that is the overall context, and I'll just maybe take you through about 2-3 different things today. What is the evolving omnichannel landscape? What is the opportunities for the omnichannel marketer? I also fully recognize that maybe not all of you all are from marketing teams, so maybe you can take a bunch of photos and go back and ask these questions to your marketing teams eventually. And how do you really kickstart your omnichannel journey on Meta? So I think if you just take a step back and look at the world we live in today, and I spoke about this a little bit earlier as well, almost 4 hours a day is actually consumed on mobile, versus about 2 hours a day on TV and all other platforms. So really, as a result of this, a lot of discovery of brands is really happening on social media and online. And we have a term that we call Webrooming, which is basically people start browsing online and eventually come to store. We've seen a 2x increase of that happening since 2020, right? And if you look at the journey of how this eventually pans out, it's threefold, right? So what we've seen is that 84% of people discover brands on social media, and they eventually come to store and shop. The folks that discover on social media actually land up spending about 30% more than folks who've not discovered the brand online at all. And I think if you think about this, it's quite intuitive, because if you've done your research and you walk into a store and you know what you want to buy and you're just going to make the consumption there, it's very likely you already have some faith in that brand and are probably going to buy either something else or upsell to a higher category instead. We've also seen that that leads to much better repeat rates, right? About 70% more compared to folks who only discover you offline. And all of this, in terms of what we're seeing, is also reflects in the media strategy of every omnichannel marketer that there actually is today. So this is a chart that really talks about, if you look at adex and all the ad spend in the country, this year, about 60% is projected to be on digital, right? And I think if you look at your own P&L, I think the question to ask, irrespective of if you're a traditional first or a digital first company, are you at a similar place as well? And if not, maybe there's something that you can do about it to maybe change things. And hopefully the slides to follow will tell you how. Now, what are the real opportunities on Meta for the omnichannel marketer, right? And if you just look at our platform, globally across the world, we have about almost 4 billion monthly actives. We don't share country-specific numbers, but again, if you look around the room, I'm sure everyone here is either on Facebook, Instagram, or on WhatsApp. So pretty much the entire audience is here. You can see some snippets of what all everyone is doing today. But I think what we really look at as a big trend is how much time people spend watching video. More than 50% of time spent on our platform is on video, right? And you also see that translating to some really cool creatives. So you see the creative on the right of a brand called Tanishq. I think we all know the brand. We've seen how they've done great storytelling in the print and TV world, but also how they've adapted really, really well to the digital first world. And I think the question for all brands today is how can they go down that same path as well? If you look at what are the 3 big things that people are doing on our platform, and therefore trends for you all to really care about, and I think I see a few phones up, so this is that time to maybe take out your phones and take a photo, but really 3 big things, right? One is the explosion of short-form video. People are spending lots of time on Reels. Second is it's no longer about what your brand talks about you, but also how influencers and what we call creators talk about you as well. And if you see the stat there, it says 51% of people surveyed actually agree that creators had a larger influence on their purchase versus what the brand itself did. Right? The third big one is the move to messaging, which is how 90% of online adults in India message with a business at least once a week. So this is sort of the 3 big trends that we see. And therefore, if you had to tap into this for your own brand or for your own retail brand today, how would that really be? There's 3 parts. I'll quickly skim through each of these to give you a glimpse today. I think what we call performance, connection, and creativity. Performance is really about having the foundation in place. Your connection is basically about connecting with your consumers 1:1, personalizing that communication, and eventually on creativity, using the right hook and speaking the language of our platform to make sure that it's being done well all across. And I'll deep dive into a few of these. The first one really is about how do you give your brand the right foundation to do well, to understand digitally influenced store sales, right? And the first thing there that you'll see is something that we call Conversions API. It's a little technical, but I'll try and break it down very, very quickly. Essentially, what this does is once you have these integrations in place, you can see at a campaign level that you've done what exactly is the sales that you're getting from that campaign in your offline purchases as well. And as a result of that, you have this really cool plumbing that's set up that will eventually tell you for every money or for every dollar that I spent, what was the return that I eventually got out of it. It also allows you to go ahead and target offline purchasers, and therefore you can actually create a cohort of people that have shopped from you earlier, and therefore go and target them online as well, and therefore giving you really sharp personalized targeting. So that's your foundation. If there's one thing you need to do, that's the first thing you should ask your team to actually execute today. This is an example, and I think we've got a few very interesting case studies after this as well. I'm sure all of us have heard about the brand it's called Rare Rabbit. I think they're probably top of the chain in terms of brands that have started out digital, but have eventually built a very good, robust omni-channel brand, right? Now, if you look at how they really execute this on our platform, they of course have conversions API placed, but they also use our AI solutions to really map out cohorts of stores, whether it's newly launched, whether it's laggard stores, or stores that are doing really, really well, to have specific marketing KPIs for each of them, and eventually personalized communication and targeting basis that. So you can see the creative here that really talks about it's trying to send people to their store in Hyderabad in the Inorbit Mall, and that's personalized to people in that radius itself, right? So that's the power of what you can eventually do. This is another cool example. So we see a lot of brands use a lot of traditional media of both TV and print. And how do you really continue doing that, but also aid it on digital channels? Because think about that being your reach driver, but think of this being your frequency driver. This is an example of BigBasket, a brand, how they were able to basically deploy Meta on top of their print campaigns in a few cities and see significant uplift in both their website traffic and sales. I see Hari from BigBasket here as well, and he came over. So we actually worked very, very closely with his team to be able to execute this over a period of about a year or so. And eventually it's come to a place where they're now being able to actually like move from print and actually move to much more personalized communication on Meta itself. This is another very cool one, which is, let's just say you're doing a TVC out there and you sort of want to track movement in mind metrics in your brand health track. Today you have limitations and you're not able to really understand which channel did what for you, how did TV work, how did print work. So you can actually integrate something called a cross-media again with our team, and it'll actually tell you for every money that you spend, where was the real impact. And you can see on the right-hand side here that Meta was 5% of investment share for this brand called Van Heusen, which I'm sure we're all aware of, and it actually had about 23% impact. But TV, if you actually see, was 50% investment share, but only had about 22% impact. So therefore, what the brand has done, therefore, is rejig their investments to be able to be in a place where they're able to make it a little more ROI friendly and also reduce their marketing budget, but get the same outcome on the back of it. The second thing, I think, which is probably my favorite, is just about connection and WhatsApp and how you can use WhatsApp to drive your business as well. This is really a chart that talks about, across the entire funnel, all of the use cases that you can go ahead and use. But I'll talk about maybe one very interesting case study from Chroma within the Tata Group of how they were able to leverage this to eventually drive traffic to their stores and eventually attribute digitally influenced store sales. So they actually created something what we call a click to WhatsApp campaign. And you can see the image on the left. It says it's an ad on your Facebook and Instagram feed. It says chat on WhatsApp. It eventually takes you to your WhatsApp chat itself. And you can basically use that to chat with the user, understand where he's from, where is his nearest store, send that location to him, give him a personalized coupon code, and eventually when he walks into your store with that coupon code, you can attribute it back to that store itself, or rather to that campaign itself. And you can see some data in terms of the uplift that they saw. So Chroma saw like a 3% uplift in their overall store sales, right? So that's a massive number. The other interesting one that they keep telling us is that 50% of the people that came via this campaign were actually new to Chroma. And I'm sure today as retailers, all of us look around and we see that our new customer acquisition pace is reducing. Therefore, how do you really keep that going? I think this is a great way to do that. The last one really, and I have 2 minutes left, so I have just about the right time to go through it, is how do you use the right creative tools to ensure that you're captivating your audience's imagination, right? And I think really, if you look at the context here, is that look at where people are spending time on our platform. What is the language of the platform? It's Reels, it's basically short form video, and what's really powering that is influencers or what we call creators, right? How do you use them to enhance and tell your message as well? And I think that's what sort of eventually drives authenticity, brand love, is at least the way we see it. This is probably a very, very good example of a brand called Louis Vuitton, a luxury brand in the high-end space, and how they've really utilized our suite of surfaces, what we call across the board, right? Whether it's feed, stories, reels, or creators itself. FYI, this is all the same campaign, but you can see how it looks so, while it looks consistent, but also distinctive in its own way or form and how it's personalized to every placement that it's in. And therefore, what we've seen, how it works really well, is that someone may see your ad on the feed but may not respond to it. But when he's retargeted with a story ad or with a reel ad, it's more likely that he will start paying attention and eventually care for what you're trying to say. And how do you really do this all in a very cohesive manner is really what we're trying to say in this point here. Therefore, if you had to look like, or rather, if you had to look for a toolkit in terms of how do you unlock growth for your brands if you're an omnichannel player, first one, what we'd really say is implement CAPI, which allows you to go ahead and measure the impact of digitally influenced store sales. It also allows you to target your relevant audiences based on the audience that you're able to upload back on Meta. You should really focus on utilizing Meta in combination with your TV and print creatives to be able to drive maximum impact, reach, and frequency. And I think the home run here is click to WhatsApp. Like Chroma, we've had multiple other brands go ahead and take that live. We have Tanish, for example, that have actually gone live with about 25 stores and plan to go live with about 100 stores by the end of the year. And lastly, how do you go ahead and speak the language of the platform and drive consideration and brand love through the voice of creators on Reels? So that's everything I had, and I'm perfectly on time. I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but otherwise I'll hand over back. But you can find me around and happy to have a chat. Thank you.